You know, when you think of the Pittsburgh Penguins of the early to mid 1970s, this name comes up quite often. Not only was he was a breakthrough draft pick for Pittsburgh in the 1970 draft in the first round, 7th overall, he was probably one of the best Western Conference Hockey League players or WHL players to come out in quite some time. He played with the Estevan Bruins for a number of seasons, scoring some big totals: 67 of 125 and 104 points between 68 and 1970. Of course, we have to talk about the great Greg Polis. Now, born in Westlock, Alberta, he was a 1968 Memorial Cup finalist when he had 35 goals for Estevan. He improved that with 40 goals in 69 and 48 in 1970. He was a WCHL All-Star first team in 1969 and 1970. Now, he eventually made his breakthrough in the NHL on October 10th, 1970. He scored his first NHL goal for the Penguins on October 28, 1970 versus LA goalie Dennis DeJorday. Now, he had a great rookie season with Pittsburgh as he had 18 goals and won the Michel Briere Memorial Trophy as Pittsburgh Rookie of the Year. Now, he also played the All-Star game that year in Boston and also in the 72 All-Star game in Minnesota. Now, his biggest goal of his early career was a game-time goal for the Penguins at 1914 in their third period on April 1st, 1972 to keep the Penguins alive in the playoff race. The Penguins eventually clinched his berth with a win the following day. Now, he has set Pittsburgh single-season records since broken for goals by a left wing with 30 in 1972, and again co-led the team with those 30 goals that season. He also had 8 goals in a power play that campaign. Now, he also represented Pittsburgh in the 73 NHL All-Star game and was named the game's MVP, even though his West team lost in the East 5-4 on January 30th at MSG. Arriving just time for the game after witnessing the birth of his first child the previous night, he scored the game's first goal in over 55 seconds of the first period, and he later cut the East lead to 3-2 with his second goal of the game, which was unassisted, at 4:27 in the third period. Now, he also had 8 power play goals for the Penguins in 73. Now, when he moved on to the Rangers, he set the NHL, the New York Rangers, single-season record since broken for penalty minutes in one game with 33 at St. Louis on December 14th, 74. He also notched a quartet for the Rangers on February 16, 75 in Minnesota, the first of 2 hat-tricks that he had for the Rangers in his first season with the team. Now, he was leading the NHL with 3 shorthanded goals when he injured his knee 20 games in the 78 season, and was still leading with those 4 counters when the season ended with a re-aggravation of a knee injury in January 78. Now, he also scored a memorable power play goal on a rink-line rush for Washington in a 5-4 win over the Rangers on January 24, 79, just 9 days after being waived by the Rangers. Now, he also played 9 regular season games for the 1980 Hershey Bears that went on to the AHL Calder Cup, but was not with the team in the postseason. And he also played 2 contests for the 81 Hershey team that won the AHL regular season title. Now, this is kind of weird. There was a lot of stories involving Greg as well. We're going to go over it right now, and bear with us. They're all true. Now, there was also the Pittsburgh fan lawsuit. Now, during the November 11th Remembrance Day game between the Rangers and Penguins in 1978 at the Civic Center in Pittsburgh, Polis, who was playing for the Rangers, got into an incident with a Penguins fan that led to a lawsuit years later. Polis, who had been a Penguins player again in the early 70s, was heckled relentlessly during the game by a young man named David Brown. An older teenager from Elizabeth Township, Pennsylvania, Brown was, by his own admission, yelling obscenities at both Polis and Phil Esposito all evening as he sat near the Rangers bench. He also admitted to taking part in a Porky Pig chant directed by the Penguins fans at Esposito. When the game ended in a 2-1 Rangers victory, Espo later told security that these same fans were throwing ice from the drinks at the Rangers players. During this moment, Brown claimed his head was struck from behind by a hockey stick of a player exiting the ice. Witnesses said Polis had a swinging stick at Brown, who then he claimed he developed epilepsy as a result of the incident. Polis acknowledged the NHL security officers that he had reached over the glass to tap Brown lightly on the head with his stick while all of this was going on, but there was no intent to injure and no force involved. Brown filed his lawsuit against Polis, the Rangers organization, and the NHL in Allegheny County in the early 1980s after his epilepsy was diagnosed. Now, defense attorneys pushed for dismissal of the case, but in late February 82, a state court ruled there was enough evidence to go to trial. The trial began on March 18, 1982, and lasted 3 days before it went into a settlement negotiations between the parties and Judge Frederick G. Weir. Polis did not testify at the trial. On March 22nd, Brown reached a settlement with all parties, except a reported $27,500 to drop the suit. Now, it didn't end there. Now, Polis, again, involved in some interesting trades. We're going to go into this in a second, but it ties into his retirement later on. He was traded by Pittsburgh with Brian Watson and a 74 second-round draft pick, which was Bob Hess, to St. Louis for Steve Durbano, Abe DeMarco Jr., and J. Bob Kelly on January 17, 74. Now, on August 29, 74, he was traded by the St. Louis to the Rangers for Larry Sakarak and a choice of a 76 or 77 first-round pick. St. Louis later opted for 77, and he returned to pick the Rangers in October 75 trade, involving all people Derek Sanderson. Now, he was also claimed by Washington off waivers from the Rangers on January 15, 79. Now, on July 17, 81, in the wake of his retirement as a player, Polis filed a $5 million breach of contract lawsuit in U.S. District Court in Baltimore against the Capitals. He claimed owner A. Poland and the rest of the organization had not provided complete medical treatment for the broken tibia he suffered late the 79 season, an injury which ended the season had a big impact on his right knee for the rest of his career. Polis said the team never x-rayed his leg during the late stages of the summer of 79, but still allowed him to take part in the training camp that year without full knowledge of how well the injury had healed. Polis said he had complained about lingering pain in the leg to training staff, but they had suggested he just needed to play himself back into shape. Polis continued to experience pain until January 1980, when an x-ray showed the knee had never properly healed. Following that discovery, Polis said the Capitals put him on waivers, which he cleared for the purpose of sending him down to Hershey. While playing with Hershey, the knee worsened and led to his inability to continue playing pro hockey. No further reporting was done in the suit, likely settled on the court since it never went to trial. Now, full name, Gregory Lynn Polis, nicknames quite a few, Polecat, Poli in Indiana. Now, outside of hockey, he lived in Prince George, BC during the off-season and playing days after discovering the city while heading to work at a hockey school in Quesnel. He returned to Prince George full-time, owning a service station and later working in the construction business in his first years after retirement, becoming an automobile salesman. He worked primarily for the company that is now Wood Wheaton Serpent Center in Prince George. And he was also an avid handball player during the 1980s and competed in the Canadian Championships. Now, we're talking about the injuries. 71, he suffered from mono knee injury in 1978. Again, strained ligaments in the knee in January 78. Season-ending surgery. Hairline fracture in the right tibia in 79. Talking about Washington. And again, the bone spurs in the right knee, which he incurred in Hershey. Now, he was also high in the draft in WHA. The Alberta Oilers took him in a 72 entry draft. Now, his agent was the incomparable Larry Roach during his playing days with the Rangers. Now, he was also selected by the Cincinnati Stingers in the 73 WHA draft of established professional players. And, of course, he never played in the minor leagues before being sent to New Haven on November 16, 1978. Now, reportedly, he fought his teammate Brian Spencer and Estevan, and the team opted to solve it by trading Spencer. Now, he told reporters in the 1970s that his childhood dog would retrieve pucks for him on the backyard rink. We'll get to that in a second. But the big line he played on, I still say one of the best ever, Jean Rattel, Roger Bear, and him. What a line. Now, he also took part in ceremonies and returned to the Mellon Arena before the final game there on April 8, 2010. Now, like I said, he was born in Westlock, Alberta, but he grew up in Dap, which is a prairie town nearby with a population of 75. With few other children in town, he allegedly would bring his pet Labrador Retriever to chase down and retrieve the puck. Statements such as Greg Dog used to chase pucks for him in his childhood with associated a cartoon were an annual highlight of his tops and OPG hockey cards in the early 1970s, the repetition of which became a source of amusement to hockey card collectors over the years. And he also stands out, ladies and gentlemen, his 1974 Topps OPG card, probably one of the better action photos of all time. So his cards were very collectible at the time because is it Polis? Is it Polis? Well, Greg Polis. Now, when he played with Estevan, he was regarded as one of the best players ever to come out of that organization. I tend to agree. Now, unfortunately, bad news came on the doorstep a few years ago. We heard he was sick, and he eventually died of cancer in Courtney, BC, on March 18th, 2018. So, again, just to recap here, WCHL All-Star 69-70, All-Star Game 71-73, All-Star Game Most Valuable Player 73, Pittsburgh Brier Award winner 71, Rookie of the Year. And just to recount some of these better seasons, 1972, 30 goals, 49 points. He's combined Pittsburgh-St. Louis season in 71, 22 goals, 26 big goals with the Rangers in 75. And Washington, okay numbers. He had 12 goals in 19 games in 79, his last kick of the cat. And, of course, in Hershey for 2 seasons. What's kind of ironic about this, ladies and gentlemen, he only played 7 playoff games in his career. I would love to see Polis in the playoffs. But just to recount here, 4 years with Estevan, ladies and gentlemen, 12, 35, 40, and 48 goals. Memorial Cup, he had 5 points in 12 games. So again, if the story is about a life in hockey, I'd like to see a 30 for 30 on Greg Polis, because at 6 feet, 195, one of the better left wingers. But like I said, low key, and I know it sounds weird, when he played New York, nobody talked about him either. It's like, when Ron Greshner was there, Esposito, Gilbert, Rattel, all these players, even Brad Park, Vic Hatfield, or the later players, he played parts of 5 seasons with the Rangers, and again, he was no publicity at all. And everybody else in the team got publicity, so hard to figure out. But I still think, ladies and gentlemen, if they would have kept him in the 79 season, he would have done damage against Montreal in the playoffs. But I guess, as a lot of you know, Bobby Sheen was brought in, Hedberg, Nielsen, so his declining numbers weren't going to benefit New York. But the cull of the herd of the Rangers, he stayed, but they got rid of a lot of players in the mid-70s. Jackman, Villemure, and everybody else. It was pretty bizarre. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any memories of Greg Polis, let us know. For me, I still remember that he could play any game. He could play the rough, he could play the tough, and I don't know what happened with that 31-minute penalty game, because if you notice the statistics, he played 615 games with 343 points, 174 goals, only 391 minutes in penalties. So he took one freak, and that was it. Thanks for listening. Bye.